Well, I guess it's that time of the year again where we bust out our ugliest Christmas sweaters and think about all the mistakes and the missed opportunities of the past year. Yep. It was a good year for me, especially because a lot of the bands that I like and was already listening to for a long time, years, like the few bands that I actually listen to a lot, most of them released an album this year. So basically, I guess this is my little multiple albums of the year list. I can't pick one that I liked more than all the other ones. I'm pretty bad at that, like making a top 10 or a top whatever of anything really. So don't ask me to rank these albums or these bands because they're all a little different. They're all just doing their own thing. I mean, they're all metal bands, but the music that they make is like so wildly different in atmosphere and just general vibes that I find it really hard to pick a favorite. So I'm not going to do that. So the first album I want to talk about is the new album by Alcest that came out quite early this year. I think it was March or April. It was called Les Chants de l'Aurore and I really, really liked it. Alcest is honestly one of my favorite metal bands. I think my personal favorite album of theirs so far that I've vibed the most with was their previous one, Spiritual Instinct. However, there are a lot of the things that made that album really great on this new album. But it also is very, very, like, shoegazy. If you're not familiar with Alcest, they're a black gaze band. They're the black gaze band. And what is black gaze? It's a mix of black metal and shoegaze, which doesn't seem like that should work, but it really does. At least Alcest makes it work really, really well. And I sort of discovered them on accident. I was not aware, I was aware of shoegaze existing and being like this sort of obscure rock genre from the 90s, and I was aware that black metal existed. And I went to a festival where they were playing at that afternoon that I arrived, and there were no other bands. There were no bands at that moment that I wanted to see. So I just walk into the first tent that I come across and think like, oh, that sounds kind of cool what they're doing in there. And that's how I discovered Alcest. I just kind of fell in love with them immediately, really. Anyway, it doesn't matter. They had a new album out this year, and I thought it was one of the better albums of the year for me personally, of course, because this is one of my favorite bands. But yeah, if you listen to Alcest to hear like the darker black metal vibes, that maybe this album isn't like 100% for you, but I felt there was enough of it in there that it still was really, really good. And very much a Alcest album. So the next band that released an album this year that I really liked is Ardor. They're a band that I have been listening to for quite some time as well. I forget exactly where I discovered them. I think it was just like a YouTube video that I clicked that I was like, what is this band name? Ardor. This is gonna be cringe because maybe people's first impression of this band's name is, I don't know, cringe in some kind of way, but anyway, it doesn't matter. They have been around since forever, basically, since like the early 90s or even the late 80s, if I'm not completely mistaken. In case you're unfamiliar, they make this very atmospheric, dark, but almost ethereal kind of black metal. They're from Greece. I don't know why that's exactly relevant. Though I do believe that your background as a musician has a pretty big influence on your music. I mean, that's totally normal. We're all products of our environment. If you're into black metal, but maybe you're not necessarily about like Corpse Paint and Hail Satan and that kind of stuff, then this might be a band that you might enjoy. It has all the elements that I think work really well in black metal, but like not really much of the cringiness. Despite the band's name, they don't wear corpse paint. It's just a bunch of guys on the stage. And I have seen them live once, and I was blown away by how good they were live. And I mean, I think I just went in with not really expecting much of it, and they just blew it out of the water. And so the album they released this year was called Pro Christu. I've listened to it. It's not necessarily like it's about Christianity in a way, but not like in a positive way, I would say, but they're never like about that. But yeah, it has everything that I like about Rotting Christ. It's dark and heavy and, it's black metal, but very, very atmospheric. A lot of their songs are also about like paganism, religion, but not like in a worshipy kind of way. Not anything, not even like when they do have songs about like demons and stuff. They're not doing anything groundbreaking. It just sounds like other Rotting Christ albums. It's just, I guess it's more of the same, but what they do, I really enjoy. I think it's really good. So I really enjoyed this album. I just realized I wrote things down. I made a little list of stuff that I really liked this year, and they're all bands and they're all albums that I don't really see very many other people really talk about when they're talking about like album of the year. Maybe it's because I'm just completely behind on what the big bands are. Or maybe I'm just like in a weird corner of music. I'm just listening to bands that, I mean, these are not small bands, but they're mostly like medium-sized bands. And the next band I want to talk about that released an album this year is Orden Ogan. They're a German power metal band. I think this is one of those modern bands that is keeping modern power metal alive. And I need to get updated on other modern power metal bands. I think the only other one I can really think of is Glory Hammer, and I don't listen to Glory Hammer that much because I think they're a tiny bit generic. There's nothing wrong with that. They're just sort of like, they don't 100% do it for me, while Orden Ogan definitely 100% does it for me. And the album they released this year is called The Order of Fear, and I've been listening to it a lot. I think I can like sing all the lyrics by this point. Yeah, I think definitely The Order of Fear is just like another step up from what they were already doing. It's bigger, better, faster, stronger. I don't know, I'm getting a bit of Daft Punk in here. Makes no sense. Yeah, I mean, if you like power metal and you've never heard of this band, you should definitely check them out. But anyway, I thought The Order of Fear was totally terrific, and I can't wait to see where this band goes next. So another band that I have been listening to quite some time and that got recommended to me by a friend is Zeal and Ardor. They're a band that is quite unique in the metal scene these days because, well, they're known for combining like blues and bluesy rhythms and tunes with black metal. It seems like something that shouldn't work, but it does really, really work really well. And this band also released a new album this year. It's called Grife. And I think from what I've seen online, I think quite a lot of people were not super happy with this album. And I'm gonna be honest, I was not super happy with it at first either, because Zeal and Ardor has made a name for themselves for being like a really heavy band. Like, they go hard, okay? Some of those songs are just, ooh. If you've never heard of this band and you're curious, like, start with Death to the Holy and maybe Gotterdammerung. I mean, definitely Gotterdammerung, what am I saying? That song it's just insane. This new album has a little less of that. But that being said, the people in this band are really good musicians. And so despite the album not being their heaviest, it's probably like their least heavy so far, I thought it was still really interesting to listen to and really creative musically. But if you're into Zeal and Ardor just for the heavy bits, then it's probably not gonna be for you. But I've listened to it a few times now and it really grew on me. I really learned to appreciate it. And I gotta say, I don't mind when a band experiments with their sound. I mean, I completely understand. Music is a creative process, music is art, and sometimes when you make art, you just want to, like, try things. You know, it's a direction that bands take sometimes, and if you're a creative person, I think I can understand it's sometimes hard to find a balance between what you want to do and what your fans are expecting from you. Now, I remember the first time I listened to it, I was like, I don't know, like, where's the heavy guitars, man? And there's still some of that in there. Already the second time I listened to it, I could appreciate the creativity of it a lot more. And, well, we'll just see where their next album goes. It might be more of, like, the softer, proggy experimental stuff, or maybe it'll just go back to the sick riffs. Either way, Zeal and Ardor is one of those few bands that I listen to a lot, and that I will probably continue listening to because they really are very good at what they do. Also, I got to see them live. I gifted tickets to my husband to go see them live in October in Belgium, in Antwerp, and they were insanely good. They started with their song Gotterdammerung, and there was no hope for my neck 5 seconds in, and it literally did hurt for 2 weeks after. Maybe I should do some stretches before I go to another metal show. But anyway, yeah, if I had to already tell you about the most fun metal thing I did this year, it was probably the Zeal and Ardor show. They were the opening band for Heilung, which is not a metal band, but they're like this pagan folk band that uses like real bones and real swords to make music, and they were really awesome too, but I was mostly there for Zeal and Ardor, but both of these bands were terrific, and in an odd way, it was actually not weird to see them back to back, even though they don't seem to have much in common musically. I just thought it really worked, and it was a good time. So I got lucky that bands that I already was familiar with released new music this year. But also, before even uploading videos to this channel, I was already discovering new things this year. I think it's been, for the metal scene in general, a pretty significant year because two cool things that happened that really put metal on the map for regular people who don't maybe listen to very many metal bands, except maybe Iron Maiden or something, or maybe believe AC/DC is metal. Those people exist. The first thing was Gojira playing at the Olympics. I've made a video talking a bit about that, but either way, it was absolutely insane. And it was really awesome. There's only so many synonyms for completely amazing that exist in the English language, but all of them apply to Gojira at the Olympics. And I'm pretty lucky because I've seen Gojira live 2 times now, although it's been a few years since the last time I've seen them. So before the pandemic, that was the last time I saw them live. So I hope I can get to see them again at some point. But I also think that now that their popularity has grown a lot, that their tickets might sell out very, very quickly and I might not have another chance. But either way. So the other thing that really put metal out there for the masses was Knocked Loose's appearance on the Jimmy Kimmel Show. I'm in Europe, I don't really watch American talk shows, I don't really care about that, but you know, when a band that is as aggressive as Knocked Loose gets to be on national American television, that's kind of crazy. I knew about Knocked Loose a little bit before that, around the time when they released their album You Won't Go Before You're Supposed To. Everybody was talking about this band, and I got curious, and I was like, let's see what this is about. I think I pretty much immediately fell in love with this band. And I hear many people say that the biggest hurdle for them to get into this band is the vocals, but I was immediately like, no, this is awesome actually. I don't know how this guy is doing this, but it speaks to me in some kind of way. I can't explain it. I mean, that album is fantastic. And their appearance with Poppy on the Jimmy Kimmel Show was and it's something that as a metalhead you're familiar with, but you can only imagine what that's like for somebody who's completely unfamiliar with the kind of aggressive sound that Knocked Loose has. In a way, I wish I could see this from the perspective of somebody who's mostly unfamiliar with metal, because that must have been mind-blowing. And I can imagine a lot of kids and maybe even adults watch this and were like, I'm gonna make this my whole personality. So anyway, yeah, I think a lot of new metalheads are gonna be coming from like these two things, Gojira at the Olympics and Knocked Loose at the Jimmy Kimmel Show. Also, speaking of pig squeals, that sort of banshee scream that Poppy did was also really impressive. Like, sometimes I wish I could do it, and then I try it, and then it sounds terrible. So, like, I am very, very impressed by anybody who can scream like that, and that it actually, like, does something to your soul in some kind of way, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I just wanted to say that one of the highlights of my metal year, I guess, was discovering Knocked Loose. And another thing that relates to this is when I told my husband about this band, he was like, what do you mean? Is that like a mashup of Knocked Up and Footloose? And I was kind of mad at him, and I hated that he said that, and now y'all get to suffer with me. So I put a couple of Knocked Loose songs in our metal playlist, and I still think he's not like too crazy about them, but he doesn't say anything about it when they come up, when we're listening to music while we're like cooking or cleaning or something. So I think they're growing on him. It's gonna be okay. Okay, so one more album that came out this year that I want to talk about that I've been listening to a few times and has also been really, really growing on me, even though I liked it from the start, is Absolute Elsewhere by Blood Incantation, which is something that got memed to death on Reddit. At first everybody was like, this is the album of the year, this is so good, this melts your brain, woo! And then because there were so many people talking about it, of course, Redditors being like that, they started to hate on it, which has now circled back around to them being like, no, this album is great, stop hating on it. Either way, if you like Pink Floyd and you like black and death metal and you think these things should be mixed and sound like you're in like one of those mind-melting episodes of Star Trek, then this is an album for you. So yeah, those are like the big metal things that happened this year that I wanted to talk about. The other thing that I did personally was upload videos to my channel. Been getting quite a lot of views and good reactions on it, which was unexpected. I honestly didn't think that was going to happen. For some reason, that Opeth video I made really popped off. So yeah, I don't know why people thought that was so interesting. I think I haven't watched it again since I finished it and uploaded it, but it's probably, I already probably will think it's super cringe by now. But either way, yeah, that's definitely a thing that I really started to do more of this past year, was just try and listen to more metal and discover more metal bands that everybody's already talking about that I just never checked out, because I'm like, I'm comfortable in my little metal corner with my favorite bands, and I don't want to come out in the corner or just leave me alone. No. I gotta do a little better. And I'm really glad that I finally listened to Opeth. And I'm also glad about the other bands that I listened to so far. I will try to do something every week coming 2025 and see where that goes. The growth of the channel might just completely stagnate because I don't know if it's really that interesting, but I think it's just fun to do. And it sort of forces me to listen to more music when I think that I have to sit down and make a video. Because otherwise I might just like make a wish list, or maybe like something along those lines of like, oh, this is stuff I want to listen to, and then I will just forget or just don't do it and just keep listening to the same 10 bands that I already know. 2024 was for me a pretty good year in terms of listening to music. I hope 2025 is just as good. I have some fun things coming up. I have a little folder on my computer full of albums and bands that I still need to listen to. I did make a wish list, but also like if I force myself to make a video, I will actually listen to them. So other fun metal things that I have planned for 2025 are festivals. I want to go to this festival called Lokerse on Sunday. They have a pretty cool lineup so far. One of the bands that is coming is Brutus. They're a Belgian band that are really good. I've already seen them live, but it won't hurt to see them live again. They have Pendulum headlining, I believe. And I honestly have not kept up with anything Pendulum since they worked together with In Flames, which is already almost 10 years ago by this point, I think. They also have Enter Shikari coming, which is a band that I honestly completely forgot existed. I don't think I've listened to them or any of their songs since 2009. I had no idea they were still doing stuff. Electric Callboy is also coming to Lokerse. I have not seen this band live, and I've really fallen into this rabbit hole of Electric Callboy this year. I already have tickets to see them in Antwerp in November, but that's really still quite a long time away. But if I'm going to Lokerse, I'm also going to be seeing them live, and that's something to look forward to. They're also currently working on new music, and they're going to release a new album in 2025, so if you're a fan of their music, then that's also something to look forward to. And then we'll see what other bands come out with new albums. I'm not one to super closely follow every band that I like on social media and stuff, for the simple reason that I don't really have time for that, or I don't want to spend a lot of time doing that. So I will just see what happens when it happens. So yeah, I think that's all the fun metal things I did in 2024. 2025 has a lot of things to look forward to so far, and a lot of things that I'm just not aware of that are just gonna happen. So who knows, it might get crazier, or maybe the popularity of metal is reaching its peak, or maybe even over it. I have no idea. But we'll just see what happens, and I will try to upload a video every week. I don't know if I want to pin myself down to React content only. I might try to do funny things. I might try to have opinion videos. We'll see how that goes. I will take the last Sunday of the year off because, it's Christmas and New Year's Eve and stuff, and I'm taking time off of my day job, so I'm not really gonna do much on YouTube either. So I think the first video of the year will be me listening to Japanese metal band Hanabi for the first time, which is a band that some people recommended to me in the comments of my Bloodywood reaction, because I talked about baby metal and that I like them, and I realized that they're the only Japanese metal band that I've ever even heard of, so I definitely need to do better on that as well. Anyway, yeah, I hope you have good holidays. I wish you all the best for 2025, and I will see you then.